Hello, everyone. In this episode, I talk about the resurgence of long form content and my newly discovered love of writing essays. Now, this episode starts off while I was mid sentence, so excuse the beginning, but keep listening as it gets better as you go along. Lately, I've just been thinking about what does it look like if I actually take an idea I have about writing about something. Like, for example, I'm writing this piece about the introduction of femininity into a woman's life and the different stages of that as she grows up as an adult. And I'm realizing that this is gonna take some time. This isn't something I can just sit down and write in a day and put out for the likes and the shares and all of that and be consumed. This is something I actually have to sit with and distill and do research and write and properly edit it because it's such a fragile topic. Not that the topic is fragile, but you have to handle such a topic with a lot of grace and a lot of care. And the more time you take with that, the more of that you give it. The more of those things that you give to the piece, you give it the due respect that it requires. And so while writing this piece, I was reminded of the love that I have for writing long essays and how much I used to love doing that in college. I really forgot. Like I really enjoyed writing papers in college. I just have such a fascination with putting words together and reading a really well written sentence or like a thought that a person has that they can properly articulate in like paragraphs. Like that shit really does it for me. It really sparks joy in me to read them, to create them, to write them, to edit them. I love everything about a well written essay. And so I think I'm gonna change lanes for a little bit. I don't know. Maybe I'll sprinkle in the short pieces here and there, but I have missed taking my time with a topic and a subject and giving it its due respect in the way that I handle it. Um, the other thing I got to speak to is the pleasure of going back to a piece and reworking it as opposed to always trying to create some new magic. I think I've also lost that appreciation of writing where you think of something, you think of a topic or an idea you want to speak on, and you just let it brew. You just really let it brew, like sentence per sentence. You really take your time with it. And sometimes as a writer, you also have to check your own feelings as they come up as you're writing, especially if you're more of a poet. There might be a lot of things that come up in your body as you're writing it. And you have to sit with that sometimes. You have to sit and analyze that because that's bringing new insight into the piece that you couldn't have foreseen. And so it adds more layers to the piece. It adds more, I don't want to say authenticity because I feel like that word is a cop out, but it allows more truth. There you go. It allows more truth into the piece because not only are you writing about it from the way that you may think of it, but you're also writing about it as you're experiencing the topic in itself. And there's a beauty in that. I think that creates very special art. And to have the ability to flex that muscle a little bit as a writer with a piece that you're writing is really profound. So I guess one lesson I'm taking from this is there is also magic in sitting down with an idea or a piece of art that you want to create and really reworking it until you feel like you got the point across, the point you were trying to get across. You got it across. If that's the reason you're creating. And right now I'm in that groove. I'm in the long form essays, long written content. I'm in that groove. I'm in my pocket right now. And it's really nice because it reminds me of the version of me that used to love writing essays. It reminds me of that part of college again. And I've missed it. And so it's nice to experience it again. It's nice to really sit down with a topic. Another thing that it's allowed me to do writing long form again is it's taught me to embrace focus and like really deep hours of focus as opposed to a distracted mind writing very short pieces while also seeking like the very short-term validation of whether it's a good piece by sharing it immediately. It delays all of that because now you just really have to sit with what you've written. You don't know if it's good, you don't know if it's bad, no one has told you so. It doesn't exist anywhere but your computer, and so you're the only person who's seen it, and you just have to sit in that and you just have to write it out. I guess that's an English. That's a writing English that I've come to love. That's an English in the creating process that I really love. And I think I forgot how much I loved it. But now reconnecting with that part of me has allowed for much more profound ideas as to what I get to talk about. Because if you think about it, a lot of the things that affect all of us as human beings, as women, as Black women, hell, as anything that you are, it's a lot of things that affect us have to be spoken about or written about with a certain level of care. And I think you can only give it that level of care with time. I think you need time. I think you need to let it brew. I think you have to allow yourself to feel it through as well and not rush it for the instant validation that it might give you to share it immediately and get people's thoughts on it and raise questions and etc. There is something to just sitting down with a piece and really reworking it until you feel like you've done the topic justice. And so I'm in that part of the process right now, and I'm really, really loving it. So I wanted to come on here and share that. I've also come to find that when you write long pieces and the reader reads it, it takes on a different habit it takes on a different behavior. You're almost asking the reader to read it with different eyes. And even the way that they engage with your piece is different. So what I mean is, if you're scrolling through Twitter and you're just reading really quick tweets or sound bites from an article that was published, you're just scrolling through it. And you could be doing that while you're on the line at Trader Joe's or hell in your car or somebody else's car. You could be doing that while you're sitting on the couch watching TV. But if you're gonna read something long, like a long piece on Medium, you really have to sit down and tell yourself you're about to read this and demand of yourself a certain level of focus so that you can properly digest what's being said, because you have a long way to go. It's like 6 paragraphs deep, and that changes the way you interact with that piece. And I think I want to be the writer that writes those pieces, the writer that demands that of the reader, because I think it's a beautiful relationship. I think even as a reader myself, a reader of other writers, of course, when I sit down with, or not even writers, but also filmmakers and etc., when I sit down with long pieces of content, I really get a glimpse into who the artist is, their perspective of the world, and the relationship they have to the world. You get a glimpse of their reality, and you also, the relationship between the two of you feels more intimate because in this one piece, the writer gave more of themselves to you. The artist, the filmmaker gave more of themselves to you in that film. And so there's more to distill, there's more to learn about who this artist is. And as the reader, I like that writers demand that of me sometimes. I like that artists demand that of me because sometimes, because I do want to snuggle up in my little egg chair and read a good book. I do want to sit on the couch with a throw over my legs and read a well-written article on femininity or sexuality or something related to those topics. I do want to do that. I do want to cuddle up and watch a really good Netflix movie or series. I do want to do all those things. And so I appreciate the artists that go out of their way to make those pieces of content to allow that behavior of me, because those are some of my favorite moments, some of my most favorite moments when I'm by myself. I really enjoy doing those things. And without those writers taking that upon themselves to create such long form content, without them, then I don't get to have those moments. Everything does eventually become just scrolling on the gram or scrolling through Twitter. And that's sometimes that gets bland. And I also think that maybe why the resurgence is happening is because it all got bland. You know, eventually everyone starts to create for an algorithm. And so eventually everything starts to look the same. And you'll just keep scrolling until something different comes along. But the thing is, there's less different out there. And so you just keep scrolling and you never stop. And so I appreciate the writers that make me stop, that demand that I bring a new focus every time I interact with their art. I appreciate those filmmakers. I appreciate those directors. I appreciate those artists. I appreciate those writers. I appreciate those painters, whatever it may be. I appreciate the people that demand that I bring more of myself to their art because they brought more of them to their art. I appreciate that. So I guess this is also a love letter to other artists creating long form. Thank you. Thank you. And also through you, I have been able to recognize my own love of writing essays in pages and pages and pages and telling stories and long stories and well thought out stories. I'm so happy to have found that love I have of those things. And yeah, I guess I just wanted to share that. The love of long form content. I wanted to share that. So, yeah, thank you guys for listening, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.